Very much. So I'll give a very quick overview of the Research Data Management Programme and particularly just try and give an insight into what we think of as the approach we've taken, I suppose, the progress we've made, and the challenges that we see, that we've uncovered in trying to do our work. Often, when you start to try to do things, you find that they're a lot harder when you get into them, and so I'll talk about some of the challenges that we see going forward. Jisc's approach in the research data area is simple, general, but we're going to try to improve the capacity of UK universities to manage and curate research data. Jisc's role is very much to work with the universities at the university level. We are interested, of course, in national infrastructure, but our approach has been to try and build capacity within institutions. That affects really what I'm going to say and how I'm going to describe the programme. I won't dwell too much on the drivers, but because they're familiar, I think, very much to this audience. But within the university, we want to encourage the best practice of research, addressing major research challenges and the sort of things that David Groenewegen very well illustrated that can come out of improved research data management. And, of course, one of the drivers are funder and increasingly journal policies as well. But it's important to stress that these issues, these drives, are not alien to universities. This is part of universities' missions. And making that alignment between the university mission and the realization that research data management can improve the achievement of the university mission, I think is central to this work. Jisc has been working in this area for some time, since before 2009. There was a number of reports which Jisc funded and conducted, and indeed a number of projects in other programmes. There wasn't a research data programme at that time, but in the repositories programmes and other activities, there were a number of very important projects which put down some key sort of pathfinder work, if you like, as to how repositories might deal with data. The DCC has been funded since 2005, I think. I better check that I've got that date right. But that was an indication of important commitment on Jisc's part towards the understanding curation issues, digital preservation issues, and increasingly research data issues. The research data programme itself has been conducted since 2009, and the first programme ran for 2 years from October 2009 and can be characterised as very much as a pathfinder programme. A programme for prototyping solutions. The projects there developed solutions which had been taken up, but at that time this was fairly experimental. It was really trying to understand the nature of the problem and to develop some prototype solutions which could then be taken up. There's links there to further information about the first programme. The second programme has been running for will run for 2 years. It's, I guess, 12 months, a little over 12 months into the programme. The project will be coming to an end between March and July of 2013. I'll talk a little bit about the structure of the programme and its objectives and the way we designed it. Like the first Managing Research Data Programme, it was split into 4 strands. We've always felt with the DTC that data management planning is an important issue. So there's a set of projects looking at disciplinary challenges with developing a data management plan and putting it into practice. Training, of course, is a key area of activity, and there were a number of projects looking at disciplinary requirements and the requirements of support staff and librarians as well for training in research data management. And also, if researchers are going to really engage with this issue, the issue of data publication, recognition for data publication and citation are issues, and so each programme has had a small strand of projects looking at those issues. But at the core of each programme, and even more so at the core of the second programme, has been a set of large projects taking a very holistic approach within an institution. How does an institution improve its capacity across the board, across a number of areas for research data management? So our approach within those 17 projects was we tried to be quite precise in the call for proposals into what those projects should try and achieve, and to some extent the approach that they should take. So, as I said, they were encouraged to reuse outputs from the first programme, and we had a mix of projects as well, some pilot projects in universities that hadn't been thinking a great deal about these issues, and some more advanced, I suppose, embedding projects in institutions that had already had some Jisc funding or had already done some work in this area. And as I say, these projects take a very holistic approach. There were some criteria set out in the call for projects as well, which I think was important and significant, and we hope, based on current evidence, have been relatively successful. So we insisted that each project should have a steering group with high-level representation on that group. It may sound obvious if you're going to, but sometimes projects just don't have this. They do great work, they produce great stuff, but without the high-level support within the institution, they find it very hard to embed the work that they've done and to develop the foundations for an ongoing research data management service. And that brings me to the next point, which is sustainability. We asked within the call for projects for significant institutional contributions as a way of indicating that the institution itself was buying into the project. And so the institutional contributions were often close to 50% of the entire project funding. I think that was a way Jisc funding helps initiate the project, but that level of institutional contribution shows that there's commitment and gives a strong chance that the work will be embedded in the institution. And each project was required to develop a business case to sustain the work beyond the life of the project, and we'll see how successful it goes. So this slide is really designed to indicate the sort of work that each of the projects have been doing. It's a high-level analysis. We hope it will be useful in the long run as a way of presenting in a reusable way the sort of activities that the projects have done, and will form the basis for communication about that. So each project has developed a research data management policy, and as you're probably aware, according to the funding requirements of the EPSRC in the UK, a roadmap for conformity with those compliance. Each project is doing a lot of work on guidance and training and support functions, and that's arguably the most successful and engaged area of each project. And each project has been building a research data management support service, a technical system, which includes issues around data management planning, adopting the DMP online tool, or using other tools to help researchers prepare a data management plan, systems to manage active data during the life cycle of the research project, to mitigate and against the risk of data loss, and to help researchers manage their data better during the project. We're trying to encourage each institution to think about processes for selection and retention, and I think that remains a challenging area to embed that into researchers' practice, what research data should be kept and made public after the end of a research project. Deposit tools to reduce the friction for depositing research data into an archive, and data repositories and catalogues within the institutions where they're necessary. But obviously we encourage researchers within an institution to deposit their research data into a national or international archive where one exists and is appropriate. And as I said, each project is developing a business plan for sustainability. So I think those are the areas where I think we've made particular progress in development of policies and strategies. Each project, as I said, is presenting a business case for ongoing service, and we'll be able to assess the success of those in the next few months and years. Training areas have been particularly successful, I think. Systems are being piloted within the institutions, and we hope they'll be embedded and will have a long-term life. And a particular area of challenge, I think, is the joiner of institutional systems and ensuring the exchange of information from grant management systems and CRISIS to the repository and to the data catalogue, to make the presentation of the information and the capturing of the information easier during the research project. So, to close, 3 area challenges that remain, pulling it all together. 17 projects, an awful lot of information, an awful number of findings. How do we present that? I constantly receive the complaint, oh, there's all this information, it's all here, we have to pull it together. We'll be doing that on the basis of that outline as a summary of what each project is doing. The DCC are developing a how-to guide on setting up an institutional support service, supported by a range of case studies. And we'll work towards an information toolkit for universities based around that structure. And it'll also be possible to get an oversight of the work in the programme from the and the closing conference in March. Sustainability and cost is a key area. Each project is developing a business case that needs real strong evidence for the cost effectiveness of the solution proposed, and we're doing some work in a forthcoming workshop to try and pull together findings from the programme about that. And the other area where there's a big gap, we think, in the programme is on the area of national infrastructure. We've heard from the Australian National Data Service about the Research Data Australia. Apologies to David, this is an old slide, it shows only 30,000 entries where there's now 44. It's a very impressive service. We're going to try and pilot an equivalent service in the UK. It'll be very much a pilot and a prototype, but it'll be using the Australian National Data Service software, and it'll indicate the potential for that service in the UK, joining up information, joining up records from established data centres and, above all, data which is deposited in university repositories so that can be more discoverable. And I'll close passing over to Laura Malloy. The other challenges, which is provide robust evidence of the benefits which have been generated by the activities within the institutions and by the programme as a whole. And for that, within the programme, we've had an evidence gathering activities. The three evidence gathering officers are in the room, and I think Laura will ask them to identify themselves when you speak. So those are contact information, further information. Thank you.